Welcome back, finally, to Act 3 of this all-hit challenge. If you have not yet seen the previous parts, then do check them out. They cover a lot of cool tech, and this won't make much sense otherwise. Just a quick little reminder on what this challenge actually involves. I gave every enemy a bonus 99 to all their attack rolls, for all intents and purposes making this an all-hit run. Without any further ado, let's get into it. We kick things off by getting assaulted by the Absolute, and find that the Emperor is being invaded by some Gith. Without the setup from Armor of Agathis, all we can really do is run away. But somehow, my jump lands me right on top of this Gith, and thus, I almost get murdered by the very same one. Not all the Giths are cruel though, as two of the others just seem to take pity, skipping their turn, letting me barely slip away. And I mean barely, 2 HP left. I make it through the portal, use a short rest, and after making sure to get my armor up, I chug a few potions to top myself off. The first two Gith I encounter quickly kill themselves, and I make my way down to the Emperor. This fight is way easier than the one we just ran from. I am for all intents and purposes completely immune to anything they can do. And they almost kill themselves during the very first round. Realizing this, they instead try to go for the Emperor, bringing him down to half health. After a few glyphs of warning, just to top off my arcane ward, we swiftly delete one of them. The Emperor, who keeps getting focused, clearly gets fed up with them as he brings out the chain lightning, one-shotting 2 of them and allowing me to finish off the last one. Naturally, we accept the enhanced Tadpole's influence, and use the tadpoles we've collected to basically get all the upgraded illicit powers right away. Exiting to Act 3, we stumble upon a mad real estate owner and some mercenaries. The first one does a nice 88 damage to herself during her very first turn, dying to an opportunity attack on the second one. The other melee man does not fare any better, and even though getting attacked 8 times has its drawbacks, as we are completely out of arcane charges now, the remaining 2 are both exceedingly weak. And they go down without any issues. I find a strange ox in a shed, and decide to beat the ever-living shit out of it for a minute and a half. It's free XP after all. Making my way into the circus, I pickpocket the cheating ring from this genie, and manage to win his unwinnable jackpot. The prize is getting transported to a dangerous jungle filled with dinosaurs in the middle of nowhere. And so, after letting a dozen dinos snack on me, which I'm sure they immediately regretted doing, I beat up this chest next to the portal and get Nirolna. It returns to us anytime we throw it, with a nice bit of bonus AoE damage, glows all by itself, and most importantly, gives us a bonus 3 meter movement speed. A temporary, but still very good upgrade from Creation's Echo. While I'm at it, I expose the so-called Dribbles the Clown for the fake that he is, and while sitting back relaxing, watch on as the doppelgangers kill themselves. It never gets old. Reaching level 10, we get another level into Wizard, increasing our max arcane charges to 14, and extremely importantly, letting us cast Fire Shield, without the need to have Sorel's shield. I approach a Demented Fist, guarding the lower city, some actual nightmare fuel, and after failing to trick the Watcher, accidentally misclick, consenting to getting arrested. I mean, to be honest, I would have arrested me too. Just look at that. Hey, editing Bouch here. Just popping in quickly to say that we have reached 26,000 subs. That's a mind-boggling number. I really appreciate all the supports on these videos, and if you're enjoying this one, why not also hit the subscribe button? It's right there, and you can always just unsubscribe later. Anyways, back to the video. In order to get out of here, we have to solve this skull's riddles, which I, being my impatient self, of course fail. He still agrees to teleport me out, but instead of doing it quietly, leaves me just in front of the guards. We may not have any weapons, since they were confiscated, but we do get a nice free haste for escaping prison. Since we're a wizard, I used a very balanced wet lightning interaction, and chase the final wizard down, killing him with the Displacer Beast illicit power. I think that's the first time I've ever used this. Anyhow, I reclaim my lost loot and escape back out, returning to the guards, this time making sure to click the correct option. This fist attacks me once, and then realizing his mistake, tries to stop himself mid-attack. Yeah, sorry man, that's not how this works. The only one able to actually hurt me here is the Steel Watcher, who quite easily breaks through our armor. It takes a few turns of stalling, but eventually I also manage to bring him down. Ignoring both the guards on the bridge and Gortash, I head straight for the lower city, rushing over to Damon, who has the Armor of Persistence for sale. This is by far the best armor for us in the game, but it is extremely expensive, 14,000 gold, and right now I only have 5,000. So using one of the oldest tricks in the book, I respec myself to level 1, head back over there and give him a small amount of money. And just like that, we have a 58% discount on it, letting me buy it. This armor will be crucial in not letting large damage sources pierce our armor. It gives us permanent blade ward, in other words, halves all sources of melee damage. This, in combination with the fact that it has a -2 to all incoming damage, and we get a -3 from the heavy armor mastery, means that at this current level, anyone that does anything less than 39 melee damage will be reduced to 0. I return to the prison we just escaped from, activating the 2 dragon flames with a lightning spell, and proceed to take on Baldur's challenges. The first one is a survival test, and since our damage reduction is so high now, they don't even attempt to attack us as they just pass their turns. The second one is a chess puzzle, and while, let it be known, I do love chess, it's just more satisfying doing it this way. The third one involves beating up this guy called Swelto. Why? I don't know. Returning to the main hall, we get a nice free 5,000 XP and proceed right past this big dead dragon. Good thing it's dead and can't hurt us, as we pick up the Helm of Baldur. Since we lost immunity to crits from our chess piece, this one very crucially gives us it back. It also gives us +1 to all saving throws and makes us completely immune to stuns. Well, most stuns that is. It also heals us for 2 hit points at the start of every turn, permanently proccing our Brood Mother's Revenge that I decided to re-equip here. Heading over to the Devil's Fee, we interact with a couple of items. Importantly, succeeding at least one of the Arcana checks. This lets us tell Helsik about our knowledge in otherworldly items, opening up her secret stock of items to us. In it, we find the Cloak of the Weave, a cloak that works just like the one we already have, but also grants us a +1 bonus to all spell DC and spell attack rolls. For some more XP, I head over to the Tsar Palace, making sure to eliminate all the rats and spawns on the way. I take out these extremely fragile servants, and after beating up an old skeleton that seems to forgot we are even there, I head into the room full of animals. Making sure to start the fight with a nice wet and black hole, we get to see the usefulness of Nurulna's splash damage. From Cazador's dungeon, we take the back way out to the sewers, where we encounter this little child that came running up to us at the start of Act 3. Of course, it's not really the child, but Orin. I have no real interest in saving some child I spoke to one time, but Orin does offer me a fight to the death if I take out Gortash, which sounds perfect. Managing to convince some grease wizard that he shouldn't attack us, we reach level 11, and thereby get level 8 in wizard. We now have 16 arcane charges, and also get access to another feat. Whilst we could put it into something like mobility for the extra movement, I decided to instead go for the very reliable Warcaster. It gives us advantage on all of our saving throws, making it way easier to maintain our haste and hex. It also lets us cast Shocking Grasp on any target moving out of melee range, which, if they're already wet, can do up to 48 damage. I also grabbed Conjure Minor Elemental here. Heading back to the lower city, it's time to start the pursuit for our final weapon. We begin by speaking to this very troubled mother who says that her child is missing. Heading over to this house here, we learn that it's Ethel. And after saving Myrina from the voodoo doll, we get ambushed by a bunch of crabs and one of Ethel's underlings. This fight is very annoying for the simple reason that the crab's melee attacks just are not treated as such for some reason, and therefore does not reflect any damage to them. Jatlo is not as lucky, and he dies almost right away. I throw my weapon to splash damage on all the crabs and somehow manage to hit Myrina on the top floor, instantly killing her. And after some very nice assistance from Adriel, can't do anything but watch as she dies. Luckily for us, none of these people actually matter. All we were really here for is this safe on the wall. It contains the tear-stained journal, giving us the Hag's Bane recipe, and also contains the necessary ingredients to craft it. I stop by at Loroakan to grab a few scrolls of invulnerability, very crucial later, and continuing over to the Blushed Mermaid, we find this captain that, very unfortunately for her, is already ability drained, sort of ruining the surprise that it's Ethel. She escapes, and after murdering her band of short-bearded men, in which I accidentally murder a civilian, causing the flaming fists in the bar to join in, still somehow on my side. I guess they don't mind murder as long as it's done to a drunk man. I follow Ethel down into the basement. Here we find the real captain and her crew possessed by Ethel's masks. And after ending them, we arrive at the heart of the Hag Slayer. This fight has 3 Pearlspore bells that keep Ethel alive. They also very annoyingly heal to full health at the start of every turn, and obviously being flowers cannot attack us in any way. So somehow we need to do 97 damage 3 times with our very defensive build. To accomplish this at all, we have to respec. I grab the Camprit Bone Shield, which prevents our target from healing, and the spell Blight. Blight specifically always does its maximum damage to plants, also giving them disadvantage on the save. And so with that quick respec, I start the fight by hasting myself and blighting one of the flowers. This is going to be a battle of attrition. We need to destroy all 3 flowers whilst dealing with all of Ethel's clones. Having Scratch and the ice methods here help us soak up a lot of the damage, and we can easily kill one of them with Psionic Backlash every single turn. Taking out the mushrooms, Ethel's clones focus all their attention on our summons, just as planned. But then I have the brilliant idea of casting Hex whilst being hasted. Excellent play as always by me. And so it comes down to us against Ethel and her 10 clones. Our final method successfully prones her before dying. And for some reason, it's like the clones are too scared to attack us at all, even though they had no problem doing so at the beginning of the fight. So all they do is just pass their turns. Being out of water bottles, I am forced to use the normal spell, triggering Ethel's legendary action. Doesn't really matter, she just spawns another clone, and she doesn't even go that far. As with the wet debuff, almost dies from a single opportunity attack. Another turn goes by of the clones just passing their turns, and I make sure to throw the potion we made at Ethel. This makes her violently puke up the mother's trapped child, and after cursing at us, saying that she's going to paint the wall with our guts or something, I let her try, and she just simply implodes. The child runs off, and we pursue her to her house, where we get rewarded with the Duelist's Prerogative. This sword is insane. While wielded without anything in the offhand, it lets us crit on 19 rolls and gives us an additional reaction, letting us use opportunity attacks, Wrath of the Storm, or even counterspell an extra time per turn. The sword also has Challenge to Duel, a spell that normally would be amazing, granting all attacks against anyone but us disadvantage. But since this is a lone wolf playthrough, it's not as important. But if you want to try this build with a whole party, then by all means use it. On top of all these things, it also lets us attack using a bonus action every turn, simultaneously being able to spend our reactions, if we don't need them for anything else, to deal an extra 4 necrotic damage on every attack. What a crazy weapon. I return to the circus and buy a statue from this Bonnie guy. The statue will give the person it depicts a free permanent bless effect every single long rest. Having already made the pact with Orin, I pretend to agree to help Gortash, and before attacking him, go to deal with his army of Steel Watchers. Approaching the factory, I slowly deal with the ones outside, who, again, just don't attack me. I guess damage reduction just breaks some of the fights in this game. Entering the foundry, I kill the guards holding the Gondians captive, making sure to disable the self-destruct apparatuses they drop. Down in the basement, I slam my head into another Watcher and begin yet another fight. Things don't end any better for these guards than the other ones, and after killing some Gondians that dared to join the enemy side, we reach level 12. Honestly, this build is so fun. Just seeing all the enemies immediately implode as soon as they try to attack you, whilst yourself taking no damage, is so satisfying. With level 12, we can finally respec into the final iteration of this build. Instead of going for Warlock, we can now start as Sorcerer. Making sure to keep our intelligence at 16, we go for the Draconic Bloodline, and through the White One, get access to Armor of Agathis, just like the Warlock. So why would we respec from Warlock then? Well, Warlock does not get the normal spell slots, and we won't really be able to use them anyway, so might as well just use Sorcerer for some normal ones. Level 2, we still put a level into Cleric, again for the Tempest domain, heavy armor proficiency, and create water. And with that, the next 10 levels all go into Wizard. We of course take the Abjuration subclass at level 4. At level 6, we pick up the heavy armor mastery feat, and at level 10, we get the Warcaster feat. Level 11 grants us our one and only level 6 spell slot, and the new level 12 gives us the feature that makes respecking like this at all possible. Improved Abjuration. Each time we take a short rest, it grants us half our arcane charges, 10 to be exact. This means that we can simply short rest once after every long rest and get up to full charges without needing to sit there and spam the warlock shit. As for spells, most don't really matter, just pick whatever you like, as long as you make sure to take Longstrider, Counterspell, Haste, Glyph of Warning, and Fire Shield. With this respec done, we can now cast Armor of Agathis with a level 6 spell slot, bringing our reflected highest damage up to a staggering 96 every single time anyone attacks us with a melee attack. Oh yeah, and we now have 20 arcane charges, meaning that while at full stacks, they would need to do 50 damage in a single hit to at all damage us. With this respec done, I decide to go clear out the rooftop to prepare for the Gortash fight. And amazingly get counterspelled through the floor, angering the entire bottom floor. I am thereby forced to sit through minutes of just waiting for the enemies to slightly reposition, and decide to just run away and go finish the source of the problem. Normally, to get the code for shutting down the Steelwatch facility, we would need to go save the families of all the Gondians trapped in some super prison underwater. Luckily for us though, someone just miraculously killed this guy off screen. Wonder who that could have been. Anyways, he willingly gives us the code, and we proceed on to take on the final Steelwatch boss, the Hellfire Titan. After getting my shield and the web effect going, we do a nice 170 damage to the Titan on our first turn. The Titan immediately goes into his defensive bulwark mode, gaining a 200 HP shield, also regaining 20 to 62 health each turn. While he's in this mode, there is really not much we can do to hurt him, so I just spend my turns hitting the smaller watchers, until he goes directly into it again. 2 turns later, he finally decides to actually fight me. And after tanking a hit to the face, blasting him a few times with witch bolts, and triggering an attack of opportunity, we successfully trigger his self-detonation protocol. Normally, the way to deal with this would be to end him before he gets any turn, but there is also another option, simply moving away. He blows himself up, and I finish off the final watchers. And so, inputting the code, we blow up the Watcher factory once and for all. With Gortash's army significantly weakened, it is now time to deal with the man himself. I quickly make sure to respec and grab Remove Curse, as it is basically mandatory for the oncoming fight. Returning to the rooftop, I find that they're still just in the same spot, so getting into combat with Raven Guard, I make sure to close the door for a simple, quick 1v1. Topping off my arcane charges with a glyph, I approach Gortash. He starts off with a dazzling ray that looks way more impressive than it actually is. Making sure to enter his melee range, I activate Fire Shield and wet him. This guard makes the mistake of attacking me. Gortash also decides to give it a go, but quickly understands that he will need to bring out the big guns. Starting off, he tries to curse me with the Closed Fist of Bane. I don't particularly feel like tanking that though, so I use my one and only level 6 spell slot to counterspell it. Since cursing me didn't work, he decides to instead punch me, which as we know by now, is not the greatest of ideas. Attacking him with a Chromatic Orb, his legendary action triggers. This puts a curse on me that at the end of 2 turns will do a massive 20 to 200 force damage to me, most likely instantly killing me. And this is the exact reason why we brought Remove Curse. Gortash once again fails to curse me, and clearly desperate now, tries to flee. And so after a ward and a hit, we finish him off with a Psionic Backlash as he tries to curse us once more. Collecting his Netherstone, it's time to deal with Orin. But to do that, we first need to take care of Sarevok. Honestly, this fight is just really sad. My defenses are so high at this point that Sarevok won't even attempt to attack me unless I specifically trigger either his legendary action or an attack of opportunity. It doesn't make things any better that his underlings can't really help him either. 2 of them just have melee attacks, and the third one, whilst being annoying, can only prolong the inevitable. After managing to kill all the echoes, Sarevok fully powers up, but is still just too scared to attack us. So we have to give him some motivation. He finally gets to trigger his Deathbringer's legacy just as he's about to die, and I mean, well, it doesn't really do that much. Collecting the amulet, we can finally challenge Orin. Orin's legendary action lets her use Sanguine Lash once per turn after being attacked. If she's not attacked, the Bull of Baal will place a condition on a random creature, in this case always being me, making it so that if we do not kill an enemy, we will instantly die no matter what. And that might sound really scary, but all in all, it sounds way worse than it actually is. Since there's so many followers holding the ritual, there are plenty of targets for us to kill. Orin gets distracted fighting our summons, and I take out most of the ritualists using Thunder Wave and my water elemental. Without the Boon of Baal for unstoppable charges, Orin is now officially damageable. She starts off strong, fearing my elemental and breaking my haste, after which she resummons some of the dead cultists. The skeletons don't really matter though, they just die upon touching us anyways. After a few turns, where I trade hits with Orin, she finally runs out of her unstoppable charges. And after managing to take out our elemental, kills herself in just 2 hits. What a build this is. Collecting her Netherstone, there is only one thing left to do: confront the Nether Brain. I naturally fail every single roll, and after getting saved by the Emperor, join him to the upper city and the final area of the game. Not feeling like it's plausible for this build to take on the horde of enemies before the final fight, I simply haste myself and, using an invisibility pot, fly past it all. Interacting with the stock, we have officially reached the final encounter. Step 1 here is getting the Emperor and myself all the way over to the Crown of Karsus. To do this, I start by chucking a haste pod at him, allowing him to get all the way there in just 1 turn. Unfortunately, I get my Misty Step counterspelled by this Spell Plague after failing to stop it from casting Disintegrate that hits me for a balanced 51 force damage. I also managed to move up next to the Emperor and the Crown. Our helmet finally comes in clutch, preventing me from getting stunned, but the Emperor is not so lucky as he tanks a fireball to the face, getting downed by the crown itself. Thankfully, this is exactly why we brought the Globes of Invulnerability. Using one creates a sphere for 3 turns where nothing inside can damage or be damaged by anything. Helping him up, I watch on as the enemy tries in vain to somehow hurt us, and the Emperor finally gets to open up the portal just in time for the globe to disappear. Following him in, it is time to put an end to the Brain once and for all. Since the Brain cannot directly attack us, we are forced to bring out the very balanced lightning spells once more. I wet the Brain, drink a haste potion, and start off with a 150 damage crit thanks to Luck of the Far Realms. In retaliation, I fail a save and get brought out of my haste. But due to the fact that I still had my turn active, I just lose this turn instead of the next one. I use the Emperor's one and only strong move, Chain Lightning, for a respectable 84 damage. Now with just half health remaining, the legendary action of the Nether Brain kicks in. Each turn, it will be completely immune to whatever damage type it took on its previous turn, meaning that since I hit it for a huge amount of lightning damage, it will be completely immune to that. Great news for us though is that the wet effect does not only affect lightning damage, but cold damage as well. So I used the cold version of Chromatic Orb, getting a lucky crit, and managed to finish off the Brain on the very next turn using my final haste potion and 2 Witch Bolts. What a fun build this was actually. The last encounter didn't really showcase it, but the rest of the game was extremely fun. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend you to go try this build for yourself. The next part of Summons Only will be coming out in a few days, hopefully. I'm currently working my way through Act 2, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.